The tray hit the floor before anyone understood what had happened. Green beans scattered like shrapnel. A tin cup rolled under the table, spinning, spinning, until it finally went still. Sergeant Anderson stood over the wreckage of Sergeant Davis's dinner, his hands still raised, his face twisted with something between contempt and pride. The mess hall, usually a roar of clattering trays and tired laughter, went silent in an instant. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Nobody in that room forgot the sound. Not the crash of the tray, not the wet slap of gravy on tile, not the strange, ringing quiet that followed. 200 soldiers sat frozen mid-bite, forks hovering, breath held. On the wall behind them, in chipped gold letters on a faded green board, 3 words washed over the whole scene like a judgment nobody could escape: discipline, honor, integrity. Sergeant Maya Davis did not flinch. That was the thing people would talk about for weeks afterward. She did not flinch, did not gasp, did not even blink. She simply raised her hand, palm out, steady as stone, as if she were stopping traffic instead of absorbing an insult in front of her entire platoon. Her voice, when it finally came, was quiet. Quiet enough that men had to lean forward to hear it. "You just made a mistake you can't take back, Sergeant." Anderson laughed. It was an ugly laugh, the kind men used to cover fear with bravado. He'd been passed over for a promotion that morning, the one everyone assumed was his, and it had gone to her instead. A woman, 3 years his junior, standing there now with a black eye of humiliation only he could see, because in the eyes of the U.S. Army, rank didn't care about ego. It never had. But egos rarely accept that gracefully, and Anderson's had been simmering since the announcement came down at 0600 that morning. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Maya Davis had spent 6 years learning exactly how to survive moments like this one. She had grown up the only girl in a house of brothers who told her she'd never make it past basic. She had buried those doubts under years of discipline so total it bordered on obsession. She ran further, studied harder, spoke less, and listened more, because she understood something most people never learn: that power respected quietly is power that lasts. She thought this deployment would be different. She was wrong. The whispers had started the moment her promotion was posted. Whispers in the barracks. Whispers in the motor pool. Whispers that grew louder with every day she wore that new insignia, until they became something almost physical, a pressure she carried on her shoulders alongside the actual weight of her gear. She'd told herself she wouldn't let it get to her. She told herself a lot of things that week that turned out not to be entirely true. Now, standing amid spilled beans and shattered pride, she felt the old doubt rear up one more time. A small, cold voice asking whether fighting back would make things worse, whether silence might be safer, whether she should just walk away and let the mess hall forget. It would have been easier. Nobody would have blamed her. But easier wasn't the same as right. She knelt, picked up her tray without a word, and set it back on the table as if nothing at all had happened. Then she looked at Anderson, and in that look was neither rage nor tears, only a terrible, patient calm. "Finish your dinner, Sergeant," she said. "We'll talk tomorrow." And she walked away, spine straight, boots striking the tile in a rhythm that sounded, to more than one soldier in that room, like a countdown. The next morning, the company formed up under a gray sky heavy with the smell of rain not yet fallen. Word had already spread, the way word always does in a place where 200 people share the same mess hall, the same fears, the same fierce, unspoken hope that someone, somewhere, still believes in fairness. Soldiers who had eaten in silence the night before now stood a little straighter, watching, waiting, wondering what Sergeant Davis would do. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She stood before the formation, official report already filed, statement already given, evidence already gathered from the dozen soldiers who'd seen everything and, for once, refused to look away. Anderson stood at attention, jaw tight, eyes fixed somewhere past her shoulder, refusing to meet the moment. The first sergeant read the decision aloud. Conduct unbecoming. Insubordination toward a superior officer. Reduction in rank, effective immediately. The insignia came off his sleeve in front of everyone. Not violently, not cruelly, but with the quiet, procedural finality of consequences finally catching up to actions. And in that moment, something shifted in the formation. A few soldiers exchanged glances. Somewhere near the back, someone almost applauded before catching themselves. The silence afterward wasn't the silence of shock this time. It was the silence of respect, settling slowly over the ranks like morning fog. Maya Davis didn't smile. She didn't need the satisfaction. What she needed, what she'd always needed, was simply to be seen as exactly what she was: capable, disciplined, and worthy of the rank she'd earned. And on that gray morning, under a sky about to break open with rain, she finally was. Because dignity doesn't need to shout to be heard. It only needs to stand still long enough for the truth to catch up. A tray fell in a crowded room, and for one long, breathless second, the whole world seemed to hold its breath with it, waiting to see whether cruelty or character would have the last word. If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because every story of quiet strength deserves to be heard, and so do you.